were ordered for him. The ladies of the house kept awake all night, sneaking, skinning various nuts. Every possible care. Try to understand my feeling. So far as every possible care was taken in dressing fresh fruits in the Indian style. Numerous delicious were prepared for his companions, his means Mahatma Gandhi companions, amongst whom Mahatma Gandhi's son Ramdas was there. Then Mahatma Gandhi could appreciate this affectionate hospitality. He could not bear the thoughts of a whole household being occupied in entertaining 2 or 3 guests. But as yet, he saw no escape from embarrassing attentions. ଏଠି ଆମେ କ'ଣ ପଢ଼ିଲେ? ମହାତ୍ମା ଗାନ୍ଧୀ କୁମ୍ଭ ମେଳା ଆସିବେ, ତା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ସେ କଲିକତାରେ ତାଙ୍କର ବନ୍ଧୁ ଯିଏକି ରଙ୍ଗୁନରେ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି ଡକ୍ଟର ମେହେଟା ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ଗଲେ ଏବଂ ସେଠି ବାବୁ ଭୂପେନ୍ଦ୍ରନାଥ ବସୁଙ୍କର ଅତିଥି ହେଲେ ଏବଂ ସେଇ ଅତିଥି ଭିତରେ ସେ ଦେଖିଲେ ଯେ ତାଙ୍କର ପରିବାରର ସଦସ୍ୟମାନେ ମୁଖ୍ୟତଃ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ କେମିତି ମହାତ୍ମା ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କୁ ଆତିଥ୍ୟ ଦେବା ପାଇଁ ମହାତ୍ମା ଗାନ୍ଧୀ ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଆସିଥିବା 2-3 ଜଣ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ଆତିଥ୍ୟ ଦେବା ପାଇଁ ଚେଷ୍ଟିତ ଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଯେଉଁ ବ୍ୟାକୁଳତା ସେଇ କଥା ସେ ଲେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ବହୁତ ସ୍ୱାଦିଷ୍ଟ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ସ୍ୱାଦିଷ୍ଟ ଫଳ ମୂଳ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଲେ ଖାଇବା ପାଇଁ, ତାଙ୍କର ସେବା ଶୁଶ୍ରୂଷା ଇତ୍ୟାଦି ମଧ୍ୟ କଲେ ଏବଂ ଆରି ଭିତରେ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ସେ ଅନୁଭବ କଲେ ଯେ ଆତିଥ୍ୟଟା କେମିତି ହେଇପାରେ। ଗୋଟେ ଅତିଥିଙ୍କୁ ଆତିଥ୍ୟ ଦେବା ଭାରତୀୟ ସଂସ୍କୃତିର ଯେଉଁ ମୂଳ ମନ୍ତ୍ର ଅତିଥି ଦେବତା ଭବ ସେଟା ସେ ଅନୁଭବ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଏଇଠି ଆମେ ଆଲୋଚନା କରିକି ଆମେ ଗୋଟିଏ ସିଦ୍ଧାନ୍ତରେ ପହଞ୍ଚି ପାରିବା ଯେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ଦର୍ଶନ ଓ ନୀତି ଆଦର୍ଶ କିପରି ଭାବରେ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିତ୍ୱର ବିକାଶ ପାଇଁ, ସାମାଜିକ ବିକାଶ ପାଇଁ ଓ ମୋଟ ଉପରେ ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ର ଗଠନ ପାଇଁ ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ପ୍ରୟୋଜନୀୟ ସେଇଠୁ ଅନୁଭବ କରିହେବ। ତାପରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା ସେଠି ସେ କେମିତି ଗଙ୍ଗା ନଦୀରେ ଆମେ ଜାଣିଛେ ଯେ କଲିକତାରେ ଆମେ ଯେଉଁ ଗଙ୍ଗା ନଦୀ ରହିଛି କେମିତି ତା ଦେହରେ ବୋଟିଂ କରିଛନ୍ତି, ଯେ ଭାଗୀରଥ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ବୋଟିଂ କରିଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ସେ କେମିତି ଭାବରେ ଅନ୍ୟମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି ସେଇ କଥା ଆମେ ଯଦି ପଢ଼ିବା ଦେଖିବା ଅନ୍ ଦି ବୋଟ୍ସ ଗୋଇଂ ଟୁ ରେଙ୍ଗନ୍ I was a deep passenger. If excess of attention embarrassed us in Sujit Basu's house, was such attention even to the elementary comforts of deck passengers was our lots on the boats. What was an apology for a bathroom was unbearably dirty. The Latins were stinking snakes. The use of Latin one had to white to wade through urine and excreta or chop over them. This was more than flesh and blood could wear. So he approached the chief officer without avail. If anything was lacking to complete the picture of stink and filth, the passengers furnished it by their thoughtless habits. The spots where they said that the surroundings with the leavings of their foods, tobacco and betel leaves. There was no end to the noise, and everyone tried to monopolize as much room as possible. Their language took up more room than they. We had thus 2 days of the overs of severest trial. On reaching Irangun, he wrote the agent of the Darimansi steamship company, acquainting him with all the facts. Thanks to this letter and to Dr. Maheta's effort in the matter, the return journey through on deck was less unbearable. Then another thing we'll find, so far as the discussion is concerned, that means whenever we are talking about the situation, what happened, whenever the there means in the Rangoon, so far as fruitarian diets was again a source of additional trouble to the hosts. But since Dr. Maid's home was a good as my own, ନିଜ ଭଳିଆ ସେ ଦେଖିଲେ ନିଜ ଘର ଭଳିଆ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଲାଗିଲା ମେହେଟାଙ୍କର ଘର, and he could control somewhat the lavishness of, that is, the menu. However, as he had not set any limit to the number of articles he might eat, the plates, that means the pellets and the eyes, refused to put an effective check on the supply of varieties ordered. There were no regular hours for meals. Personally, he preferred having the last meal before nightfall. Nevertheless, as a rule, it could not be had for 8 or 9. This year, 1915, and whatever I am talking about, Mahatma and his visit and his participation in Kumbh Mela, that means that was the year 1915, the year of Kumbh Mela fair, which is held at Harvard once every 12 years. He was no means eager to attend the fair, but I was anxious to meet Mahatma, that means Munshi Amji, who was in his Gurukul, that means Gokhel Society had sent a big volunteer corps for service at Kumbh Mela. Pandit Haridanath Kunjru was at the heads, and the late Dr. Dev was the medical officer. He was invited, Mahatma Gandhi was invited to send the Phoenix party to assist them. And so Mangalalal Gandhi had already preceded him, that means Mahatma Gandhi, on his return from Rangoon, and he joined the bands. He was between the devil and the deep sea. Where then another thing you will find, so far as he has been under this huge, and he was able to testify that that and in his opinion that means life and situation which has been experimented in the different spiritual activities, or what do we say, melas, or we can say about the participation in the different activities, that was a articulation of social movements. That was the articulation of social movements. And you can find about, he speaks about in this way, that is total revolution. That means total revolution is the only way through which society can be updated. So you can find here Mahatma Gandhi speaks about that we have to first of all understand the word revolution. That means revolution can change the society, and the revolution is two types. One is the revolution which is based on some radical activities, and there is also revolution which is based on peaceful principles, or which is not radical. So in this way we can understand one thing, that total revolution is what is the concept which has been defined in number of ways. George Seuer, Patty, Samuel P. Huntington's, then Sigmund Newman and Thomas Say Pun define revolution as a value change. By value change is meant a change in the dominant value of the community at a particular point of time in its temporal dimension. So the most common definition of revolution have laid emphasis on a structural and institutional transformation in the existing social relationship and institutional basis of the society. The theory of structural change envisages that a revolution replaces one social structure by another. In a narrow sense, so far as the Marxian tradition is concerned, it is specified, or it is specially related to the change in the economic structure of the society. मार्क्स कौन कहले रिवोल्यूशन कथा आमे कौन उठला, आमे कुंभ मेला कथा आलोचना कले, आमे आतिथ्य कथा आलोचना कले, आमे बेंगली मानकर भावना कथा आलोचना कले. देयर इज सेइंग व्हाट बेंगली थिंग्स टुडे इंडिया थिंग्स टुमोरो. एवं आमे आउ कौन आलोचना कले, जे सबु भितर गोटे परिवर्तन दरकार एवं से परिवर्तन होची दुई प्रकार गोटे कठोर मार्गर परिवर्तन आ गोटे होची शांतिपूर्ण मार्गर परिवर्तन संग्राम विभिन्न प्रकार अच्छी संग्राम विभिन्न अवस्था अच्छी किंतु संग्राम को बुझिया पड़ो संग्राम आम जिते बड़े गोटे पॉजिटिव एटीट्यूड नहीं करूचु सेते बेले आम डेवलपमेंट कथा उठुची सेते बेले गोटे कंस्ट्रक्टिव थॉट कथा उठुची एवं आम जिते बड़े से परिवर्तन को लेकिन ध्वंसर कथा चिंता करूचु सेते बेले नेगेटिव कथा उठुची सेते बेले विप्लवटा होची गोटे सामूहिक भाव रक्तपात विप्लव तेणु ये मास कथा चिंता कला कालमास से विप्लव कथा कहते जे विप्लव सामाजिक परिवर्तन आनिब से मुख्यतः अर्थनीति को नहीं से थिला वाला नथिला वाला भितर प्रभेद आणुछन से बुर्जुआ प्रोलेटारिएट मान भितर प्रभेद आणुछन से सर्वहरा एवं पंजीपति मानक विरुद्ध पंजीपति मानक मध्य प्रभेद आणुछन तेणु विप्लवटा मध्य अर्थनीति को नहीं पारे सामाजिक व्यवस्था को नहीं पारे यहाँ आम बुझीपारे से आम गोटे कथा मन रखा द विल्बर्ट ई मोरे ही हैज डिफाइंड रिवोल्यूशन in terms of institutional change. He perceives revolution that is a type of change which engages a considerable portion of the population and results in change in the structure of government. So, the other definitions of revolution includes change in the leadership, that is, and in other way you can understand the competence of government. Then change brought about the legal constitutional means and finally violent acts. So here you can find that means the analysis, so far as our analysis is concerned, that clearly spells out that any one dimensional of change may mean a revolutionary change, but be it a change in the dominant values of the community or its social structure, institutional leadership or elite components or legal or violent change. So total revolution is a further extension of the Gandhian approach to social change. Social change is the Gandhian paradigm, which is a very comprehensive and inclusive term. According to Gandhi, a partial change in any one component of the social matrix is likely to produce disequilibrium in society. So society therefore will tend to move towards a state of constant instability in order to ensure that the social organization maintains a steady and dynamic homeostatic state, and an all-round change is needed. By an all-round change, Gandhi did not mean only a change in the social framework, but also a quantitative change in the behavioral, attitudinal, and valuational and psych structure of the individual. Gandhiji, like Hegel, believed that revolution begins in the minds of men, but Gandhi enlarged the Hegelian concepts that Gandhi primarily emphasizes that an individual wanting to change the society must first of all change himself. Gandhi's revolution was evolutionary and a process of purification. Gandhiji's approach was not limited to a change in individual lifestyle, thought structure, and behavior pattern only. Thus, together with a revolution in the individual, society must change. It spans the entire continuum along which values as well as social and institutional structure as arranged. The emphasis on each one of the elements constituting the continuum. Gandhi talked of changing the society because he conceived of far-reaching and novel change in the entire social organization, which consisted of the economy, polity, technique of production, personal system of both the polity and economy, and above all, the means to be adopted for effecting the change. Then try to understand one thing that is very important so far as the revolution is concerned, that you might have known, that means so far as the Bhudan movement is concerned, or Jayaprakash Narayan's movement is concerned, or even if you understand there are number of components of total revolution, that is social, economic, political, cultural, ideological, intellectual, educational, and spiritual. These number may be increased or decreased. So you can find here that the cultural evolution could include education and ideological. Similarly, social evolution, according to him, so far as the principle is concerned, in the Marxian sense, can cover the 7 categories, can be further split off into the subcategories. So in this context, the most important variable in the cultural change is education, according to the thought of modern educationist. Then try to understand one thing: a large part of non-formal education. So far as try to understand formal education and non-formal education. Non-formal education means that is not a educational or a teaching learning process where there is a gap among teacher and student. There is direct contact. But so far as the formal education is concerned, there is a direct relationship with teacher and students, and the learning process becomes very successful. Because in the formal education, there is a proper participation of teachers and scholars in the various spheres of discussion, by which we can understand. That means a large part of non-formal education should be introduced in the system, that is a part-time education and a correspondence course. should be for all, and there should be proper participation of the people so far as different system of analysis is concerned. So in this context, we can find one thing. Gandhian approach to conflict resolution, the situation is also changed, and even if the global movements, so far as the Green Peace movement is concerned, even if civil rights movement is concerned, or apartheid movements in South Africa is concerned, everything is based on that. That means hello, my dear students. We are facing some problems so that is concerned. Then come to our discussion. That means whenever we are talking about revolution, I have already told you the revolution in different structure, the revolution in different ways that has been expressed by Mahatma Gandhi. And whenever we are talking about this, first of all, we should think about how can that will be the society through which there will be peace building and there will be people's power. That is the most important issue, and we have to understand. So, in this context, that means civil society has a tremendous role. civil society takes an important role in this contest. ତେଣୁ ଆମେ ମାନେ ସମସ୍ତେ ବୁଝିବା ଉଚିତ that in the international sphere, with the end of Cold War, many looked forward to an era of peace and prosperity. However, at no time the history has humankind experienced such a, there means a perilous situation as that which we are facing now in the 21st century. There is a constant threat of a nuclear war, terrorist attacks, natural disasters, outbreak of pandemic diseases, so far as pandemic diseases like HIV, avian flu, violent ethnic and religious discrimination, presenting an unending cycle of conflict, poverty, hunger, degradation of the natural environment, and the ever widening rich and poor divide. So we can find with this that with such merit and serious problems confronting us, we now need to think about peace in a new way. So far as Margaret Mead once said, a small group of thoughtful people could change the world. Again, I am repeating this. A small group of thoughtful people could change the world. महात्मा गांधी मध्य आ द्वारा प्रभावित होते कहते केते जन मुष्टिमेय लोक जदि तांकर साधना रे अवचलित रहंती ताहले इतिहासर मूलक मध्य बदलाई देबे. My dear students, please remember this, that केते जन मुष्टिमेय लोक जदि तांकर साधना रे अवचलित रहंती ताहले इतिहासर मूलक मध्य बदलाई देबे. जदि हमर लक्ष्य पत्र आमे चलीबा आम सिद्धांत रे निश्चिंत पहुंचीबा किंतु आम सिद्धांत शाश्वत हवा उचित, चिरंतन हवा उचित एवं कर्तव्यपरायण हवा उचित एवं दायित्वबोध पर पर्यवेक्षित हवा उचित एवं समाजर कल्याण पई सदाबेले पर्यवेक्षित हवा उचित. सेतिपई आमे गोटे कथा मन रखिबा, ए स्मॉल ग्रुप ऑफ थॉट्स, ए स्मॉल ग्रुप ऑफ thoughtful people could change the world. Even if you might have known one thing, so far as the LIT power is concerned, they are minorities in nature, but they are well organized. For that point of view, they are getting results. Okay, so try to understand one thing. That means a small group of thoughtful people could change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. True to her statement, it has been individuals or small groups of people who have taken it as their life's mission to remove misery from the face of the earth and ensure world peace, and from humble beginnings their crusade has spread worldwide. A lot of them emerged in the aftermath of World War, that means the Second World War, and began with the establishment of the United Nations. So you can understand one thing, that whenever we are talking about the underlying causes of violence and war, we must give much emphasis, as Arnold Steinway, that means he once stated, what is the price for failed diplomacy? What is the price for failed diplomacy? जेतेबेले कूटनीति स्तर रे विफल हुए सेतेबेले युद्धर मूल्य देवाक हुए. So British historian Arnold Toynbee has expressed this. That means warfare is a conflict between human beings or a disturbance of social environment. As Gandhi stated, what Gandhi speaks here? Gandhi stated, the earth can produce enough to satisfy everyone's need, but not everyone's greed. Because of the greed man takes. Then come to the discussion so far as the situation is concerned. That means whenever we are talking about this, here that and that is the most common factor which comes for our understanding. That means whenever we are talking about this, that is the participation or sustainable development, or even if we are thinking about globalization, or even if we are talking about the human society, or we are talking about the peace, so far as Gandhi state and nation is concerned. That means if we can think about the development which can be properly taken place so far as the grassroots level democracy is concerned. See here Mahatma Gandhi has given much emphasis on that means in his writing, that is in year 1921, he points out that the cities are brokers and commissions agents for the big house of Europe, America and Japan. The cities have cooperated with the latter in the bleeding process that has gone for 200 years. That means he further laments that little to, that means, do town dwellers known how the semi-starved masses of India are slowly sinking to lifeless. Little do they know that their miserable comforts represents the, that means as they get for the work and they do for foreign exploiter. So in this context, you can understand one thing, that Mahatma Gandhi provides an alternative of total rural reconstruction and rebuilding, the process of which the entire Indian situation will change. He identifies the survival of the Indian nation with that of the meaningful survival of the village, and village reviving the traditional way and means of the rural life, which have degenerated because of the superstitions, belief, and neglect of this aspect of Western imperialism. He is conscious of the enormous gap that exists between, so far as the villages and the cities. And you can find, that is, village and cities, so far as education is concerned, culture is concerned, medicine is concerned, recreation is concerned, and employment opportunities. The gulf increased, and Gandhi wants to stop this process and allow the village to grow and prosper. Even though he is very critical of the cities, he never wants to eliminate them. He wants to perform them and place them in a natural setting. Furthermore, though Gandhi does not provide for concrete picture of the city structure, he makes three general suggestions. First is the blood that is implanting the arteries of cities runs once again the blood vessels of the village. The cities, secondly, the cities did not need to send its people back to the village. Rather, they should readjust. That is the most important thing. Rather, they have to readjust. Whenever there is the understanding the importance of dynamic power, so far as Gandhi begins his argument, pleading for the empowerment of the small village communities, which will drive sustenance with a cottage industries, and that will provide the economic basis of the rural society, emphasizing the darker side of industrialization, which devastates the rural life and uproots thousands of people from the natural habitats. The cottage industries will provide the economic basis of a small community which is in position to manage and to enhance the quality of life and happiness, as Gandhi is convinced that the fulfillment and happiness of people is manifested when they live in small communities rather than in larger urbanized rootless, that means communities. So here you will find what he speaks about Gram Swaraj. So far as the development is concerned and conflict resolution is concerned, if individual will develop, automatically the family will develop. If there is a development of family, then there will be the development of community. And if there will be development of community, automatically there will be development of society. And state is what? State is a big society. As Aristotle speaks, the father of political science, state is what? State is the union of families. So Gandhi started his discussion so far as conflict is concerned, as its origin is concerned, that should be checked, that should be refined, or that should be properly structured from the grassroots level. Whenever we are thinking about village, whenever we are thinking about family, whenever we are thinking about the individual. So Gandhi is a virulent critic of all models of Western industrialization, as though they produce material goods but are alien to our moral values. The village panchayat system and the village republic could create both a participatory model of democracy and will also allow village republic could create both a participation model of democracy and will also allow, what is that? An escape route to avoid the perils of Western industrialization. So Gram Swaraj will be the essential framework of the alternative model with the promotion of self-sufficiency in providing the material condition essential for fulfilling the needs of the individual and enhance the elements of self-respect and pride in itself. तेणु ये आम माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स प्लीज लिसन टू मी. महात्मा गांधी बहुत सुंदर कथा कहते विषय तो आलोचना कले दिन दिन लगे. बहुत सुंदर दर्शन सुंदर अभिव्यक्ति भीतर रही. से चाहते जे द्वंद्वर अवसान केमी घटब ना व्यक्ति ठू से व्यक्ति को प्रथम परिवर्तन करने कहते. व्यक्तिर एक संस्कार जीवन कथा कहते. आम जाचे जदि व्यक्ति संस्कारी हुए ताले परिवार संस्कारी हम एवं परिवार संस्कार इनफर्मेशन आसिले कम्युनिटी हम गोष्ठीगत सोसाइटी हम सोसाइटी पर राष्ट्र हूँ गोटा बृहत समाज एवं राजनीति विज्ञान जनक कहले अरिस्टोटल कहले जे राष्ट्र हूँ परिवार समूह. तेणु से कहले जे ग्राम स्वराज स्वाधीनता दि जाऊ ग्राम रोथुवा लोक मानकर विकास करा जाऊ. भारतर अधिकांश लोक ग्रामांचल बसवास करती. तेणु से जदि शासन सहित संपृक्ति रही से विकसित हेबे ताहले आमे शांति स्थिरता सब बजाई पारिबा एवं ता भितरे आमे विश्व कथा चिंता करिबा. समग्र विश्व रे एई द्वंद्व पई जेतिकी आमे मानसिक शारीरिक आर्थिक दृष्टि क्षतिग्रस्त होचे एवं व्ययबहुल होची ताकू मुकाबिला करिया कोले हमको ग्राम स्वराज उपर गुरुत्व देवाकू पड़िबो. सेतिपय से कहले जे द फ्रेमवर्क फॉर द विलेज स्वराज इज प्रोवाइडेड इन 2 books. Sobaraj Kumarappa. That is, whenever we are talking about this, why the village movement, and here you can find one thing, that means another thing, that is so far as that your Kumarappa is talking about chemical fertilizers as agricultural civilization is concerned or agricultural development is concerned. He also gives emphasis on irrigation and so far as the water management is concerned. Then Mahatma Gandhi argues that we should make mother nature our mother nature, that means who is our great teacher, and never do anything that is contrary to her ways. For if we do that, we will annihilate it sooner or later. Water from the sea rises as a vapor and falls on land. A refreshing showers and returns back to sea again. So this is the water cycle. So Mahatma Gandhi speaks that water should not be destroyed. Water is a nature gift, and we live within water. Any individual, any living being cannot live without water. So a nation that forgets or ignores this fundamental process in forming its institution will disintegrate. So Kumarappa also recognizes the decay of regeneration in the cycle of life as a fundamental process in which all creatures cooperated. So here violence results if the cycle is broken at any stage. That means if water cycle will be broken at any stage, every sphere there is a life, like a cycle of life, water cycle. So this is a system. And if that system or cycle is broken at any stage, at any time, consciously or unconsciously, that supports and economic the idea which may close to the natural order, as that is deeply moral with well-defined rights and ethnic obligations on every participant and contribute to the welfare of all. So crucial to Kumarappa's conception of an idea, or that we can say that in society, that in the ideal society, is the understanding that the economic freedom holds for political and social freedom. So what do we find here? Without economic freedom, your political and social freedom is meaningless. So a non-violent social organization is predicated on providing complete autonomy for every individual. So the key to individual autonomy lies in the nature and purpose of work. If work only says then you can find the creative energies in the human being, and it will lead to happiness. Here you can find which has realized the centralization as the primary road block to individual autonomy and freedom. एटी आमे गोटे कथा बुझिले माय डियर स्टूडेंट्स, महात्मा गांधी गोटे कथा ये अनुभव करचंदी जे सब व्यवस्थार गोटे पद्धति रही जहाँ आम सिस्टम कौचे, आम लाइफ साइकिल कथा कौचे, वाटर साइकिल कथा कौचे। ये महात्मा गांधी कौन कहले जे जो पानी आम पाऊचे, जो पानी हूँ आम जीवन, से पानी पाऊचे कौटू समुद्र बाष्पीभूत होची जल प्रचंड रौद्रता पर परवर्ती समय जल कणिका भाव में आच्छादित होची एटमोस्फियर रे एवं समय क्रमे वर्षा माध्यम से मध्य पुणी पृथ्वी पृष्ठ को आसुची। अनवर्त भाव में यही धारा चली समुद्र नदी पुष्करी बाष्पीभूत अवस्था जल जाऊँगी पुणी आम पाख फेरी आस। मनुष्यर जीवन मध्य सेया, मनुष्य जीवन मध्य गोटे परिधि भितर गति करुच्ची। जदि यार भितर कौन प्रकार विघ्न उपजे बा असुविधा किसी आसे ताहले सेठी गोटे कौन हुए द्वंद्व आसे, सेठी द्वंद्व आसे, अशांति आसे, सेठी गोटे हिंसा आसे। तेणु प्रत्येक पद्धति प्रत्येक कार्य से गोटे निर्दिष्ट नीति नियम द्वारा परिचालित। तेणु व्यक्तिर जीवन हो बा सामाजिक चलनी हो ताहा एक स्थिरता ଏବଂ ନୀତି ଉପରେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟବେସିତ। ସେଥିରୁ ବିଚ୍ୟୁତି ଘଟିଲେ ଆମମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ କ'ଣ ଆସେ? ସମସ୍ୟା ଆସେ। ତେଣୁ ଏହି ସମସ୍ୟାକୁ ସମାଧାନ କରିବାକୁ ହେଲେ ଆମେ ସବୁ ପଦ୍ଧତିକୁ ବା ସବୁ ସିଷ୍ଟମକୁ ସମ୍ମାନ ଦେବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ସେଇ କଥା ହିଁ ମହାତ୍ମା ଗାନ୍ଧୀ କ'ଣ କରିଛନ୍ତି? କହିଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ଆମେ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟ ରିଜଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଯେଉଁ ପଢ଼ୁଛେ, ଆମେ ଜାଣିବା ଉଚିତ ଯେ ଏ ସମସ୍ୟାର କାରଣ କ'ଣ। ଏ ସମସ୍ୟାର କାରଣ ଯଦି ଆମେ ବୁଝିପାରିବା ଏବଂ ନିରାକରଣ କରିବା, ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଛି ଆମର ସମସ୍ତ ସମସ୍ୟା ସମାଧାନ ହେଇଯିବ। ସେଥିପାଇଁ ମହାତ୍ମା ଗାନ୍ଧୀ କହିଲେ that Swaraj is a self rule. You should rule yourself. ଆମେ ନିଜେ ଠିକ ହେବା। ଆଜିକାଲି ସମାଜରେ ଆମେ ଜାଣିବା ଉଚିତ ସମସ୍ତେ ଅନ୍ୟମାନଙ୍କୁ ଅଙ୍ଗୁଳି ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦେଶ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ଏ ତୁ ଭୁଲ ମୁଁ ଠିକ, ନିଜକୁ ସୁଧାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି। ହେଇପାରିବନି। ନିଜକୁ ସୁଧାରିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ଆମକୁ ନିଜକୁ ନିଜେ ଶାସନ କରିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ଆମେ ଶାସିତ ହେବା, ଆମେ ଇନ୍ଦ୍ରିୟ ଦ୍ୱାରା ପରାଭୂତ ହେବା ନାହିଁ, ଇନ୍ଦ୍ରିୟର ଶିକାର ହେବା ନାହିଁ। ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ଯାଇକି ସବୁ କିଛି କରିପାରିବା। ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସେଲ୍ଫ ରେଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଣ୍ଟ କଥା, ସଂଯମ କଥା ସେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି। ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ସ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଜୀ କ୍ଲାରିଫାଇଜ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ Suraj, that is self rule and self restraint grounded in the moral autonomy of the individual. He sees an intimate link between Suraj and Swadesh as self-reliance. Suraj for means freedom for the meanest of my countrymen. I am not interested in freeing India merely from England yoke. I am bent upon freeing India from any yoke whatsoever. I have no desire to exchange king luck for king stock. There is no freedom for India so long as one man, no matter how highly placed he may be, holds in the hollow of his hands life, that is property and honor of millions of human beings. It is an artificial, unnatural and uncivilized institution. The end of its essential preliminary of Suraj. So he speaks about, even if he has written in Hind Suraj, that Gandhiji critically, severely criticizes modern technology and the ill effects of modern industrialization, so much that he does not compromise with any of its forms. The basic cause of human misery and the sin of modern civilization is the advent of technology. Basic cause of human misery and the sin of modern civilization, I am again repeating this, is the advent of technology and industrialization. This view apparently takes shape during his formative years, for his direct contact with the English process of modern industrialization and his experiences in South Africa. Charles Dickens, Karl Marx, Thomas Hilton, and the Fabian socialists describe the horrors of the English capitalist industrial society towards the end of 19th century. While Gandhiji was still in England, factory legislation and enlargement of franchise, that is, ameliorated many of the evils of industrialization, but they only dominated and did not eliminate the major effects of industrialization. Gandhiji could easily grasp the dark side of industrialization. So in the early 20th century, many thinkers started to emphasize the modern industrial civilizations, which was not, that means unmixed blessings. The expressionist movements in philosophy and art were clamoring against the miseries of emerging industrial giants. Philosophers like Bertrand Russell shared the anxiety. Eliot expressed it best in the following lines: "We are all hollow men. We are the hollow men. We are the hollow men. Learning together. At first felt with the stralas." So the revolution against the industrial evolution is represented India by Tagore's conception, Rabindranath Tagore, of freedom, and Gandhi denunciation of the West. Gandhi does not deny the immense rights, the productivity, and consequent rights in the standard of living in the West. He does, however, deny the claim that industrialization in its current form advanced human civilization by promoting happiness and well-being among common people. He concedes that because of industrialization in certain spheres like housing, the people have begun to live better as compared to earlier times. These advances are helped in an advancement of civilization, promoting bodily happiness. So earlier people wore skins and used spears as weapons, but now they wore a wide range of clothing and used farms. If people in other parts of the world accepted the modern European practices, they should have achieved civilization. Furthermore, technology has enormously enhanced man's productivity, power, and his capacity in accumulate wealth. These are also signs of civilization, but there was also another side to the picture. So far as self-destruction. So in this context, try to understand one thing. That means the primary importance of man in production, distribution, and exchange. In other words, the primary purpose of the economy is the well-being, growth, and development of man. Especially, this principle applies to the use of machinery in the production process. Machinery for man and not man for machinery has to be the cardinal principle of mechanized production. From the proceeding points of views, industrialization involving mass production, centralization of initiative, power, authority, and policy formulation is undesirable and is to be reduced to the barest minimum. A logical consequence of this is that decentralization of production is to be carried to the maximum possible extent. Small communities of producers means economic and social democracy, reduction of inequalities within a very limited range, and decentralized initiative. These changes have far-reaching implications and can only be brought about with radical changes in society. The radical changes need a social transformation that will be non-violent through mass awakening, widely diffused social awareness, and the use of the people's power for fundamental social transformation. So Gandhiji acknowledges the existence of social conflicts and different conflicting class interests. And you can find one thing, that while Marx rejects capitalism, but not industrialization, Gandhi wants to restrict industrialization. Gandhi is keen to limit and not eradicate machinery. His views on machinery and modern industry, which are derived from the influence that John Ruskin had on him, and he supports mechanism which will help the individual and not encroach upon individuality. He clarifies about the misconception to his opposition to machines. Then Gandhi supports those machines that are necessary to satisfy the basic human needs. I am again repeating this. My dear students, please listen. Gandhiji also supports, what supports? Those machines that are necessary to satisfy the basic human needs. He also feels that industries should be socially owned, by which he means welfare of society. He wants limited industrialization to satisfy limited wants such as food, production, shelter, healthcare, and basic education. He also points out that the impersonal and monotonous life that industrialization entails, but he is ready to accept it if it helps satisfy the basic human requirements and if it is socially controlled. He is aware of the enormous differences among countries and points out that the choice of technique depends on the circumstances. Countries like India, with abundant labor and large-scale unemployment and underemployment, should restrict the use of machinery. Mahatma Gandhi speaks that there should be restriction in machinery so far as large-scale unemployment is concerned and underemployment is concerned. So Gandhiji's antagonism to use of machinery and industrialization set up apart not only from earlier Indian thinkers, even if you can understand that Gandhi point out that the aggregate demand for labor is given and that as a result of specialization in the production process, workers have highly specific skills and cannot be employed elsewhere in the economy, even if there arises an opportunity for employment. In general, Mahatma Gandhi rejects what? Mahatma Gandhi rejects. What he rejects? He speaks about the development. For that point of view, Gandhi epitomizes the spirit of self-reliance. That means, according to him, the cause of poverty in the that means in the society is what? That means exploitation of the needy by the greedy. Incomes will have to be redistributed for raising the output and fulfillment of the basic needs of masses. This will depend a lot on limiting the wants of the rich. If the masses are prepared to reject the evils of capital accumulation, they will strive to attain a more just distribution of the products of labor under the new outlook. Multiplicity of material wants will not be the aim of life. The aim will be rather the restriction consistently with the comfort. We shall cease to think of getting what we can, but we shall decline to receive what all cannot get. To get rid of poverty, there is need for revolutionary change in the prevailing attitudes to consumption and to wealth. In affluent societies as well as in the poorer countries which are cut up with the revolution of rising expectations. For that point of view, Gandhiji's Swaraj or self-rule is far removed from the Marxist ideal of socialistic stateless, classless utopia. Like the Marxists and the socialists, he desires an egalitarian society, but opposes their deterministic view of history and human nature, and their exposure violent revolutionary change. Like Marx, he accepts social conflict but does not think that violence is adequate to resolve it. He admits that violence has helped in bringing about political liberty in certain cases, but it has always brought the form and not the substance of freedom. For the results of violent revolution are always liable to be lost by violent counter-revolution. For Gandhi, commitment to non-violence is total, but it is non-violence of the brave. A non-violent revolutionary does not advocate a revolutionary seizure of state power, but a transformation of relationship culminating in a peaceful transfer of power. So Gandhi, like Marx, accept that contemporary situation is full of conflict, but differs from Marx in focusing on the conflict between the cities and village. Marx's philosophy is essentially urban oriented and he diminishes village culture as an ideology. Gandhi contends that India lives in its villages. India lives in its villages, and that city culture is not only exploitive but also unequal. Gandhi, unlike Marx, rejects the notion of a class struggle, class polarization, and antagonisms. He admits his attraction to the Marxist ideal, but expressed doubts about the means to achieve it. He also, unlike Marx, rejects large-scale industrialization and common ownership of property. Gandhi accepts, like Aristotle, that property is necessary and acknowledges the talent in those individuals who have the ability to create wealth, but insists that this wealth be used for common goods. Gandhi proposes the trustship system. Trustship system. Gandhi proposes the trustship system. That means to ensure harmony between the property owner and non-property. Like Marx, he is conscious of the notion of relative fall under the present industrial system. Despite enormous and improved productive capacity, inequality not only persists but has also increased. So in this accepts Marx's criticism of Adam Smith for ignoring social nature of our needs. However, while Marx only rejects industrial capitalism, Gandhi rejects Western civilization along with its attendant features like mechanization and industrialization, as it is based on extreme inequality and it dehumanizes the human being. Like the Marxists and the socialists, Gandhi desires an egalitarian, just and non-exploitative society. If we differentiate between the transient and the permanent, the local and the perennial, the essential Gandhi emerges in a different perspective, bringing out the similarities between Gandhi and Marx. There is an agreement on basic issues through, though their methods of reaching the ideal differ. Both accept the imperfection of the modern society since it is based on conflict and inequality. Both dislike mechanical interpretation and emphasize the dynamic role of the human beings in bringing about the necessary transformation in society. Both are confident of human capacity to transcend the present stage of irrational existence and reach a higher stage based on harmony and fulfillment of individual needs. The only Western parallel to Gandhi is Rousseau. For like Rousseau, he too idealizes a glorious past, but realizes that since there is no going back, salvation lies in small, independent, self-governing, and self-sufficient communities. Gandhi's ideal is an anarchist society where each individual is a law to himself, living peacefully with goodwill towards all, controlling all his passion and living by his own labor. The Indian Marxists, so far as Gandhi's position is concerned, Gandhi's views is concerned, you can understand that's Gandhi's social criticisms and is reserved to bring about the better and equitable social order. So, Gandhi is a severe critic of contemporary society and in conscious of its divisions, structural fallacies, and many inadequacies. He emphasizes the human factor is in any kind of revolution. Resolving conflicts, we can understand one thing is here that that conflict resolution is the most important factor and which may be the most important thing so far as the different situation is concerned. So here, whenever we are talking about the conceptual explanation which has endowed peace and conflict, studies greater insights into the generic causes of violent conflicts. Many recent initiatives like human development and human security try to understand one thing. So far as the situation is concerned, and you can find one thing that the conceptual expansion has endowed peace and conflict studies greater into the generic causes of violent conflicts. Many recent initiatives like the human development and human security have highlighted the core issue of structural violence. Thus, human security is defined as a freedom from fear and freedom from want, which include safety from chronic threats such as hunger, disease, and repressions, and protection from sudden and hurtful disruption of patterns of the daily life. And you can find that means the responsibility of eliminating structural violence eventually rests on the concerted efforts to promote political and economic institutions which consider the fulfillment of basic human needs as their primary goals. Many imperative which according to Gandhi violate human needs as their primary goal. Many imperative which according to Gandhi violated human dignity are now being attended within the ambit of human security and human development, including increasing poverty reduction program, support for women's education, health, and family welfare, sustained efforts to use forests, water, and soils, which supports rural economies and measures to ensure effective citizenship. Gandhi also spells out the ways to mitigate structural violence, while his vision of ahimsa heals the human movements as concept in Swaraj alleviates and eventually eliminates its heals the human governance as concept in Swaraj alleviates and eventually eliminated its effects. He calls for deep reforms in the way we define and organize development and governance. Gandhi was skeptic about the state intention and capacity to deal with the core issues of structural violence and exhorted the civil society to take the lead in understanding and eliminating the cause of oppressive structures. Gandhi was also emphatic that it is only by redressing the malefic effects of structural violence which impact the majority of people that India could grow as a healthy and happy nation. My dear students, please write down some important questions. Please write down some important questions. First of all, write down that what is, first of all, please write down that critically examine. Hello my dear students, are you listening to me or not? तमे सब मतलब सुनी परछो तो आमे केते गुडिया इंपोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन एबे लिखिबा. हेलो
यस सर.
लेख लेख मु डाकुची न सुनी पारले मते
आज्ञा
पचार.
सर.
प्रथमे लेख critically examine the difference between direct violence and indirect violence. Critically examine the difference between direct violence and indirect violence. Please write down another question. How violence is different from conflict. How violence is different from conflict. How violence is different from conflict. Then write down another question is here, which is very important so far as your coming examination is concerned. That is, write briefly about write briefly about the black civil rights movements, the black civil rights movements in the US that means United States of America, in the 1960s. In the 1960s. Then write down another question is here. This is also important so far as means and ends is concerned. What Mahatma Gandhi speaks, that means
Sir, it's out.
ହଁ କୋଉ ଜାଣି ଲେଖିଲ କୁହ? Critically examine the civil rights movements in America so far as 1960s is concerned. ଲେଖିଲ? Critically examine the civil rights movement in America so far as 1960s is concerned. तापर न कह, why does Gandhi insist on purity? Why does Gandhi insist, INSIST, insist on a purity of means, MEANS, of means, for realizing the ends. Why does Gandhi insist on purity of means for realizing the ends? Then another question is here. Write an essay regarding Gandhi's views on conflict and the means means madhyama, means and medium, through which way, means, MEANS, and the means to resolve, RESOLVE, resolve conflict, and to resolve conflict. This is very important. How can you understand this? That means a major concern of Gandhi discourse on the relationship between the ends and means flows from its centrality of its entire edifice, which means that it is not merely a question of an instrument, an interesting postulate of social action is the ultimate elimination of conflicts, which means culminating the factors that create a conflict situation. Since in the process of the resolution of conflict, there is neither a winner nor a loser, as in the case of war or a settlement arrived at by use of brutal force. So this framework provides the blueprint for lasting peace. This also means that peace is intrinsically linked to non-violent action and lasting peace. That means try to understand the most important thing is here as such. That means non-violence ceases to be a negative concept and has a positive dimension in the context of peaceful evolution of society. For Gandhi, means and ends are, that means, inextricably linked. Gandhi's conception of ends and means ought to be understood also in the context of his insistence that all of us are bearers of relative truth and none can stake a claim to know the absolute truth. Gandhi places the ends of Swaraj and pointed out that its realization would depend on the adoption of the right means. The adoption of ahimsa, Gandhi considers non-violence as an all-pervasive and eternal principle, and the practice of non-violence requires moral discipline that will control passions and emotions So Gandhi emphasizes self-suffering and moral discipline to become a non-violent satyagrahi, and recommends voluntary poverty, voluntary simplicity, and voluntary suffering as the key to attain this moral discipline. He also stresses on purity of means for realizing the ends. If there is no purity in your mind and thoughts, you cannot be able to realize yourself. So know yourself. Who am I? Is the basic and fundamental principle of education. If there will be a problem solving method within you, automatically you can get peace in the society. So search yourself, find out the mistakes, eradicate the mistakes, and that these are the noble points in order to get proper satisfaction for the society is concerned. For that point of view, Gandhi insists that human soul has to be devoid of all impurities and attaining purity. He recommends fasting and prayer for that point of view. Hello, my dear students. Are you listening to me or not? I do feel happy as you are giving your patient hearing. You are with me, by which we may able to understand more and more so far as different situation in our life circle is concerned. Thanking you all for your patient hearing. We may meet each other in our last class, that is the last class tomorrow, 22nd April 2025, that is Tuesday. Time is 5 PM to 7 PM. समस्ते भल भाव बुझीपार क्वेश्चन लिखिल हेलो प्लीज रेस्पॉन्ड मी अलका ताड़ी एंड
Yes,
सूर्य प्लीज समस्ते बुझीपार तो
yes, sir.
यस आमे आसंता क्लास रे पुणी देखा हबो
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍
समस्त को शुभ संध्या very very good evening to you all. We may meet each other in our next class. Thank you all. तुमर जहाँ किसी क्वेश्चन अच्छी तुम्हें पचारि परिबो आमे
Thank you,
सदा
sir.
बेले संदेह मोचन करिबा ताहले हम क्लास सार्थक हबो शेषरे आमे धन्यवाद देबा इंदिरा गांधी जातीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय को आमको ये सुजोग देथिबारु धन्यवाद. Thank you all. We may meet each other in our next class. Thank you all.
ଆଉ ଅଛୁ କାହିଁକି ବେ?